Hello! Today we're going to look at Bach's timeless classic, Bourrée, and learn how we can use the alternate free stroke to build up better speed, precision, and tone while playing the ukulele. We're going to break down this technique, and we're going to break down the first passage of this tune as well. And when you're done with this video, it's going to sound something like this, bringing the camera down. Bring the camera back up. This is a beautiful tune and a great exercise to build up this technique. So if you're looking to up your fingerstyle game, you're in the right place. You can download a free copy of the tab that's going to be on screen, linked down below on my Patreon, where you can also find this as a part of my classical ukulele collection, where you can find a full arrangement of it as well. More on that later though. Let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to bring the camera down and put the tab on screen. It's going to look something like this. So to begin here, what we're going to do is need to learn how to play the alternate picking technique. And to do this, we're going to be using our index and our middle fingers here to play our melody on the E and the A strings. Now, occasionally this will play the C string. If you actually look at the end of measure 4, you'll see the 2 on the C's played. We'll talk about what we do there in just a moment, but I'm going to super zoom in the camera for a moment so we can really look at this technique. Looks something like this now. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take my index finger to start, and I'm just going to set it on the A string, which is my first string, the one closest to the ground. And I'm going to try to keep this finger pretty perpendicular to the string and over the sound hole. And when I pluck the string, well, I'm not going to pluck it like this. That creates a really brash, not very nice sound. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my finger at that perpendicular angle, and instead of trying to pull this way and use this first knuckle to actually strike the string, I'm actually going to use the base of my strong knuckle all the way over here, and I'm going to draw this pressure to come up. So you see how I'm bending the string up a little bit. This first knuckle right here actually recesses just a tad, and I'm going to apply the pressure. The string moves a little bit, see how it starts to bend, and then the finger will release, coming up and out as it does that release. That's what creates a really nice buttery tone when you're doing this. Go ahead and try this with me. Just plucking that A string with the index, keeping the tip of the index more loose, and trying to allow most of the power to come from the base knuckle all the way here where the hand is. Now the other half to this technique is doing the same thing with your middle finger. So it's the exact same concept. Initiate contact with the tip of the finger to the string, and then have that first knuckle bend back a bit, and then we're going to come up and out with the finger to create that sound. Really important note is you notice how I'm drawing the fingers in towards my palm. As I go back and forth now between the index and middle, you see how they come up and in towards the palm. That's a big trick to building good speed and precision with this technique, as well as good tone. And so as we get comfortable, we can just kind of alternate back and forth with these fingers. And that's where the name alternate picking comes from. Now the term free stroke with this is because the fingers are free after they strike the strings. They don't rest on another string. So that's why they're coming kind of up and into the palm as they go. We're going to start by just playing it on the A string. So let's go ahead and just practice going back and forth with these two fingers, building a little bit of speed, good tone. Now zooming back out to have the tab on screen, it's going to look something like this again. Let's go and try playing the pickup bar as well as measure 1. To do this, take your index finger, place it here on the 5th fret of the A string with your fretting hand. We're going to pluck that with either our index or middle. It doesn't actually matter which one you start with, it's just whatever's more comfortable. It's also okay to double up on a finger every once in a while if it's more comfortable. If you find that you can't build up speed, try switching the fingers to see if that helps to make sure that you can alternate in different ways. So I'm going to start with my middle finger, and I'm going to play that 5 on that A string. Then I'm going to play the 7, adding the ring finger here on my fretting hand, and using my index for that alternate. And then going into the first measure, my pinky comes here on 8 of the A. And notice how I'm just leaving these fingers on, because after I play that 8, I then go down to 7, taking the pinky off, and then I go down to 5, taking the ring off. So I can literally stack these fingers as I go through. Again, alternating with the fingers here to start creating that sound. And then I need to go to the 4th fret of the A string. I'm just going to slide this index finger down 1 fret to 4. I'm going to play that. Then I'm going to play the 5 with the middle finger, and then the 7 with the pinky. I'm trying to keep to one finger per fret with my fretting hand, with the occasional movement of a finger to set up a new one finger per fret. What I mean by that is when we start, our index is here at 5, and we play 5, 7, 8. Notice how it's the index, ring, and pinky, one finger per fret. But then once it goes down to 5, from 5 to 4, the index is now moved here, and now my one finger per fret looks something like this. My middle finger here on the 5 of the A, and my pinky finger here on 7 of the A. And then I'm going to go open on the A string, taking the hand completely off, and then I'm going to use my index on 2 of the A, and now we're at one finger per fret again, so that 2 is there, then the ring finger here at 4, then the pinky finger here at 5. And then I'm going to play the 3 on the A string. I'm going to actually slide my ring finger down. And the reason for that is because after I play that 3, I'm going to use the index here on 1 so that I'm set up and ready to go. And that takes us through this second measure now. And so that you can hear it, here's the little pickup bar into the first and second measure. It should sound something like this. Going into the next 2 bars, it sounds and looks like this. So how we play this is the same deal, but now we're going to be going off to the E string. So we start by playing just the open on the A, no problem there, right? Now we play the 3 on the E. I like to use the ring finger here, one finger per fret until the very end of bar 4 now, starting with the index on 1. So that means the ring finger's here on the 3rd fret of the E. But now we have to practice getting comfortable with our fingers moving up to a different string. It's the same exact concept, just instead of plucking the A, I'm now plucking the E. And I still am going to use the index and middle finger to kind of alternate back and forth. It's totally fine if you want to just use the index to get comfortable with the position, because it's more like a traditional finger style. But it's important to eventually get comfortable when you want to build up speed to alternate between the 2 fingers. So now it's just on the E string, the 2nd string there, instead of the 1st. And we're going to play the 3, play the 1 with the index finger here, open, and then the 1 with the index, and the 3 with the ring. We go up to the A string, and then play the 3 on the E again, 1 on the E, open on the E. And then we're going to play 2 on the C. Now, you can just take your middle or index finger and just pluck that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. However, I like to use the thumb on this. So you might be thinking, why? We just talked about using the alternate picking with these 2, right? Well, in this style, usually the melody, like what we're playing right now, is covered on the E and the A strings. And those E and A strings are very easy to articulate with these 2 fingers here. But sometimes when we're playing a piece of music, we want to add harmony. And when we add harmony, that's another note. And that note might oftentimes be on the C or the G string. And having the thumb play those notes can oftentimes allow you to do more of a solo arrangement. In fact, if I took this same Bourrée and I played a little bit of harmony with it, it might sound something like this. See how nice that is? That's part of that classical tab collection that I just mentioned at the beginning of the video on my Patreon. But when I do that, my thumb, I want to be free to kind of play the G and C strings to create harmony. And so sometimes the melody note will in fact come down to the C string, like it does right here on measure 4. The 3rd to last note, you see the 2 on the C. That is our melody note. So I'm just going to play with my thumb so I can kind of leave these two fingers to play between these 2 strings, with my thumb playing between the G and the C. So after I've played that note, that 2 on the C, I then kind of start back over. See how it plays the 5 and 7 on the A? I'm going to use my index and ring finger there because it actually is a repeat here for all intents and purposes. Before we go on though, this is what measures 3 and 4 should sound and look like, something like this. As we go on now to measures 5, let's go ahead and look at 5 through the end. 5, 6, 7, and 8. They should look very similar because 5 is exactly the same as what we played on 1. It's exactly identical. And measure 6 is exactly identical to what we played on measure 2, which is pretty neat. But then on measure 7 into measure 8, it's just a little different. And what's nice is it starts the same. It starts with the same thing on measure 7 as it did on 3. Same open A, 3 on the E, 1 on the E, open on the E. But instead of going, it instead just goes and plays that 1 on the E twice. Once at the end of measure 7 and once at the beginning of measure 8 to sustain through. And that actually finishes the beginning part of this tune and the first 8-bar phrase. You can repeat these and it sounds absolutely wonderful. So 5 through 8 sounds like this. And the whole thing, if you were to play it and repeat it, might sound something like this, going through. I'm going to bring the camera just a little bit closer for you as we're playing. And there is the beautiful Bourrée by Bach, adapted on the ukulele using that fingerstyle technique, bring the camera back up, that we call alternate free stroke picking. It's a really important one to build up speed and it can be used in a lot of other situations. In fact, I recommend playing scales with it. I've got a whole video on scales right here that you can check out, and using this technique, it can be a great example for it. If scales aren't your jam, but you still want something else to do, I also have something called the caterpillar exercise, which you can find right here. That's a ton of fun to do this with because it can help you build up good speed as you're playing. As always, if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next tutorial here. Like this video, give a subscribe, all that algorithm stuff. Leave a comment. Again, if you have any questions at all, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.